Right, final session. Start thinking of your questions for these guys. I've got one or two, especially for you, Drew, so stand by. Our final speaker is Dr. Paul Gilbert. He's got the biggest business card in the building, if you still use business cards, because you have the longest job title possible. He is the Net Zero Energy Transition Programme's lead at South of Scotland Enterprise. We know him as Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Gilbert.
We can blame that job title on Paul Wilhouse, who's my line manager. Anyone who's worked with him before knows that he likes a long-winded way of getting things around, but a great line manager all the same. I'm Paul Gilbert, and I'm from South of Scotland Enterprise. SOSI, we're a government agency, so I am in the public sector, and we support businesses and enterprise and communities across Dumfries and Galloway and the Scottish borders. So we're essentially helping people and businesses thrive, grow, and to try and fulfill their best potential. In the energy transition team, there's 4 of us, and as I said, I work with Paul Wilhouse, who is an ex-minister in the Scottish government, and our remit, it's very much different day to day, but it covers whole system place-based action. We work with industry around process emissions, helping industry to decarbonise. We look at individual building decarb, renewables, right at the macro level, down to the micro, hydrogen, supply chains, and we look at managing inward investment as well. A lot of the work we do is advisory services, so not too dissimilar to consultants, but we're there as a trusted advisor within the public sector as well, and advising clients at the strategic level right down to practical implementation. We can also manage financial funding, so our Net Zero Accelerator Fund can help businesses and communities and others get on that journey towards net zero. I'm going to focus on one area in particular, but in terms of decarbonising the region and the built environment, very much looking at where we have control and influence. We do a lot of work around collaboration and trying to lead by example. So there's a heat network prospectus that we're working with both councils, which I'm going to focus on predominantly here. We do a lot of collective initiatives with the 7 RSLs within our region and the council. So we've got at least two RSLs here today that we work closely with. We do a lot of networking and brokering. So we've held some very successful heat brokerage events and hydrogen events in the south of Scotland, bringing together at a local level the people that are trying to transition. So communities, businesses, the public sector, the private estates, and bringing the people that can provide technologically based solutions to the local region. And that's been very successful in terms of enabling projects to sort of take off from that. And we do have a lot of empowering and enabling as well. So one-to-one and one-to-many support for clients. We've done a lot of internal training and working with intermediaries in the region. We as a team of 4 can't see every business and community. So we do a lot of upskilling with those that are on the front line to empower those to help others as well, which has been good as well. And we do a lot of close working, as I said, with clients across their journey. But the one I'm focusing on now for the remainder of the talk is the heat network prospectus. So this was something that was commissioned by ourselves and both councils, and we commissioned Natural Power to conduct a prospectus for the south of Scotland, very much raising the profile of heat network opportunities, presenting a different range of scales and readiness levels, different technology types, and a lot of geographic contexts, different geographic contexts as well. We focus it on 2 areas. So the first is around district heating networks, which has very much had the lion's share of attention in both the UK and Scotland as well. And if you're not familiar, these are networks that operate at elevated temperatures to supply customers the temperatures that they need in their buildings or in their processes. But the thing that we wanted to major on particularly was shared heat collector networks. And this is something which I see is gathering more momentum. And this is around distributing heat at a lower temperature to customers, and then within the customer's building or premise, they have a heat pump to upgrade it to the temperature that they need. I mean, the south of Scotland, being honest, is not awash with district heat opportunities, but it is awash with shared heat collector opportunities, and that goes for the majority of Scotland as well. So I'm very much flying the flag around this type of opportunity today. One of the things that we did was that we took the local authorities' local heat and energy efficiency strategies as a starting point, and then we did a deeper dive analysis into those shared heat collector opportunities, which are very much challenging the assumptions around the fact that you have to have a high linear heat density and a high dense area to make a network worthwhile in terms of progressing it. And one of the things which I hope will go out into the literature as a starting point for other local authorities is that we identified 7 different archetypes for shared heat collectors. And I will go over those briefly on the next slide. So they're very much differentiated by the scale, the types of buildings they'd serve, whether they would be going into new builds or retrofits, and the degree of community involvement. So community involvement is key within the south of Scotland, and within us as an enterprise agency, we work very closely with the community. And it's also shown the viability where the heat demand is sort of less concentrated as well. And I would say, just as caveats, that if we were to take forward any of those shared heat collector opportunities, you would obviously look at whether a district or a shared heat is the most sort of financially viable one to take forward and progress from there. So in terms of the archetypes that we're setting out, I'm not going to dive into a lot of the detail. And if you do have questions on the specifics, please come and speak to me in the break or email me. But there's a settlement-wide one, which is very much taking a small village or a town. And that's probably the most ambitious in terms of scale. That will probably require a large number of closed-loop boreholes or looking at access to sort of abstraction from rivers and lakes. A smaller setting, which is very much in line with some of the placemaking initiatives we have in region, is around the urban neighbourhood. So taking a number of streets, for example, and looking at a shared heat collector there. New developments in terms of housing estates or new industrial commercial sites, and there's some that both councils are progressing as new sites there. Those that are anchor load led, so not too dissimilar to what we see across sort of district sites where we're looking at large anchor loads, but we're also looking at where there's smaller, perhaps 1 or 2 anchor loads, which might not be as higher dense as a district site. Blocks of flats, and again, this is around sort of communal networks. It's quite an obvious place to look at when you're looking at a shared heat collector, and it's quite replicable across our region and most certainly across Scotland as a whole. Down at the street level, this could be something that a community or an RSL could take on, or we have a lot of private landlords and a lot of estates in our region. This is something that private estates do already in terms of progressing heat networks, and it's something that could progress where you take a street, a number of residents working together to take on a heat network. And the last one is where there's heat source led. So looking at where there's waste heat or process heat or heat from other sort of green spaces, for example, and looking at building a network off the back of that. So in the prospectus, it's not out yet, but when it will be, there's 7 district opportunities and there's 12 shared heat collector opportunities. They're very much either pre-feasibility or feasibility stage, and therefore they very much require, in terms of the next steps, and a means to setting out the business case for investment. And these 12 in particular, these shared heat collector opportunities, these are just examples. And if you go back to the archetypes, the streets example could be applicable to multiple places across our region, as could the new builds, as could the block of flats. But we're very much focused on working with the RSLs, working with some of the community groups, working with some of the businesses that we know have waste heat opportunities to start to showcase the art of the possible. These are the 12 and the 7 just shared out across the map of Dumfries and Galloway and the Scottish borders. And as you can see, there's a good spread across the region as a whole. A lot of them have been developed with businesses, have been developed with the councils. Some of them have already gone through feasibility work. So Dumfries Town Centre and the Crichton Estate have already gone through feasibility, and they're at a stage now where they're looking for business case investment. And just 2 examples that I picked out yesterday afternoon. So the Dumfries Town Centre one, this received funding from the Heat Network Support Unit. Very grateful for the Scottish Government there. And we're now at a point where we're looking at developing phase 1 out to business case. Very promising in terms of the linear heat density and the return on investment. One of the things that did make it possible, and one of the things that we did working in SOCI, is that we get exposed to a lot of different technologies and a lot of different opportunities. And through that, we were able to link in a data center provider to work as part of this heat network. And this very much unlocked the opportunity in terms of the economics, in terms of the return on investment, having access to that free heat for the network. Still have to put a lot of capital investment in, but there's free heat afterwards, potentially. And the other one was one that we developed with the community. As an example, this is in Crossmichael. So it's a rural community, and it's taking advantage of the river and looking at closed loop pond mats, and it's looking at connecting in the first instance 35 domestic properties. So the pre-feasibility and the feasibility work, we work through the technological appraisal, and then we look at the economic appraisal as well. So there's approximate capital costs for each of these types of projects in there as well. So in terms, I'm going to be on time. So in terms of what next, we're very much finalising this. So we have to obviously go through sign off with ourselves and both councils, and we're going to publish it. And we've got a publication strategy as well to reach out to a lot of one-to-one events and a lot of one-to-many events as well. We're very much aiming to stimulate discussion and conversations with interested parties, that be the communities and the RSLs that we work closely with, but also those that we're looking at practical action and investment as well, and trying to sort of fly the flag around shared heat collector opportunities. The ones that we hear about the most are probably Kenza with their shared ground loop opportunities, but it could be shared river loop, it could be shared pond loop, etc., etc., etc. If you're interested in being part of the conversation, do reach out to one of the organisations involved. If you work closely with the councils, reach out to them. If you work with SOCI, reach out to us, or contact us here, or speak to us at the coffee break. Thank you.